What's up, everybody? Welcome back, Freedom Seeds. Thanks for joining us for another beautiful Sunday here in Fort Worth, Texas. Man, what an opportunity to sit down with my man, Randal Clarke. He and I have been good buddies for a little while on the music side of things, and personally and everything else. And I wanted to sit down and talk to him because, like I said, this whole thing is about, as arrogant as it may sound, I want to have conversations with people I enjoy having conversations with.
Thank you,
so
and I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure, man. We always have good
mutual
talks.
And just mutual respect for thine art,
right
and talent. So
yeah,
you know how I feel.
Yeah, makes it easy.
I'm not gonna blow smoke up your ass. Where'd that come from?
Right.
Anyway, Can we curse?
Of course.
Not that I'm gonna F-bomb here, but
this is all private label stuff.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure.
If you want to sponsor this channel, you're gonna have to deal with some not so.
You don't know what may get said between.
That's how we roll, baby.
The West Siders.
Randal has been playing music around the country for a long time. He's a hell of a guitarist. One of the more talented cats I've come across in a long time.
Thank you.
He is part of a group called Shotgun Josephine. They have an amazing full band and duo and kind of multi-part maneuvering act that's really, really incredible. Website is up there on the screen. You can see it. Go visit them, check them out. Go by the Facebook page, like their stuff. And
if you Google, I say if you Google us, we pop right up.
Yeah, you were the first thing to pop right up. Yep. So go check them out. Give them love. Give them some algorithm help because we all need it. So
yes, God knows.
So here we are back on a beautiful Saturday. Randal, thanks for sitting down with me, man. I want to, I always marvel at the conversations we have, especially when it comes to like history. You know what I mean, and where your music journey has kind of taken you from point A to point B. Because I remember we've had a conversation about how your dad was very strict on getting getting you into music and
in a loving way.
For sure. Tell that story. How did it start? Where did it all begin?
Just musical family. My dad played. He was a construction worker by trade. When he was a young man, he was Johnny Cash sound alike.
Oh, right on.
So he played piano, he played guitar. He was just from the old school, Johnny Cash, Ernest Tubb, Hank Williams.
Yeah, okay.
But had a good, strong rhythm and a knowledge of chords and things like that, and saw in me that when I was 8 years old, I was in the Cub Scouts, and we moved around a lot, so I wasn't always able to do groups like that.
Right.
And so it came that we had to do a talent thing, and he said, well, you're going to sing a song.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
All right, I guess so.
And, he was a laid-back guy. And so so I sang Folsom Prison Blues by Johnny Cash, and he played guitar. So he saw early on, he kept trying to sign me up for guitar lessons when I was a kid, and I didn't buy into it.
Right.
I didn't want to take them. And then I was a drummer around 11, and then I broke my arm the summer of, we won't say, a long time ago.
19
And anyway, so I got the cast off. I still couldn't play drums, so I went in. He always had really good guitars.
Mm-hmm.
So he had a Martin, he had an old Epiphone, he had a Fender Music Master, really cool amp, and I just went in one day. But I had heard every weekend for years they would have jam sessions at the house. They'd play cards and they'd break out the guitars and play country music. So I had heard the guitar played, and just music was always in the house, in the car, 8 tracks growing up. Just music was always in the house. So by the time I started playing, it just kind of was there. And just having him around as someone that, and of course he was like, well, if you're going to do it, you need to do it right. Yeah. And he wasn't mean or anything about it, but he was like, I'd come out and play something. He's like, all right. He couldn't maybe show me, but he could tell me.
Right.
Maybe so having that around, his fake book, which was really cool because you have all these old country songs, and they would have the chord diagram above the words. Right. And so right away I was singing and playing, and and so I was always the lead singer in the band, whether I wanted to be or not, because I could do both.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
And just took off from there. I just always wanted to be the best musician I could be. I you know, fame and fortune, whatever has eluded me, but I just wanted to be, and I wanted to always play with nice people.
Right.
So sometimes I've played with players that maybe aren't the greatest in the world, but we had fun. Enjoyed playing with each other. So yeah.
And that makes all the difference in the world, I think, a lot of times.
And so yeah, that was Dad was a big part of.
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on. So like, what is the? I like to, at least I like to imagine everybody kind of has their why behind what it is they do as far as their passion goes. You know what I mean? Why why does a mechanic like to race cars? Well, you know, it's adrenaline rush or whatever. It feeds his kids, whatever. So what is kind of your why behind why you stuck with music for so long? Because look, at the end of the day, you and I both know it's a grind. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You know, good, bad, or indifferent. It's gonna take work to try to get anything out of it. You know what I mean? So what was the why behind what motivated and drove you to?
Oh man, I don't know. Just I've always been moved by music. It just moves me to tears. It moves me to happiness. The current situation that I've been in for almost 10 years with Susie and I is just a love of harmony singing, a love of an older country style, some bluegrass is in there on my end, and just creating music with people and just singing. I don't really know. I just have, it consumed me at a very young age, and it's just a love of, I don't know the exact, I wish I could answer it exactly. Sure. I don't know. It's just,
I'm kind of putting you on the spot for sure.
No, it's okay. I wish I knew, because even when I was a kid, just, you know, like I said, driving in the car as a kid, and my mom and dad would have music on, I didn't know what they were doing, but I was already picking things out in the songs, and usually it was a guitar, you know, and then of course just hearing the always harmony singing has just always moved me, and just
chasing
music,
it now.
all music in general. I mean everything except like polka and opera. There's only two I can really point out that I don't care for, but. Yeah, I don't think I answered your question.
No, you're good. No, good answer. Honestly, and that's kind of a hard question to answer. You know what I mean?
I just love music, and
because at some point you do it enough that it's just because it's I don't want to say it's automatic, because it's not like you're not making an effort at it, but it becomes so ingrained in you that doing it is just part of your daily movement.
And it's easy to forget what that original passion was, you know. I've just always been a sucker for anything, just learning new stuff, anything fresh, new,
challenging yourself.
Just I haven't heard that before, so I've become compulsively obsessed with this artist or that song or that whatever for a month or two, and I would wear songs out when I was a kid, you know, just listen to it over and over and over. But I couldn't imagine a world without music. I don't know what I would be without it. I don't know if I'd be anything.
Other than in trouble,
part. I can't do anything except play music, you know.
And you know that energy that you focus so heavily in energy would be focused somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know, if you didn't have it. You know what I mean? I can't imagine it being focused in a good direction, necessarily most of the time.
I'd probably end up being, I don't know, I'd study some kind of weird history or be an attorney or something. I still toy with that. I'm quitting. I'm going to be an attorney. I'm sick of this crap.
I'm going to be a graphic designer. God, stupid.
Be an architect.
Yeah. I'm going to get a real job. You know, and like, you know, the real job part of being a musician is one of those things that you just, it's an inevitability, you know what I mean? Unless you're a Britney Spears that just gets caught early because you're hot. And and you can do a little, blah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which, look, there's a place in music for it, obviously. Seasons turn, whatever. But as a you know, average looking Joe like me, you know, out there, you know, figuring out
a good voice.
You know what I mean? I gotta be really good to separate myself apart. And I think and I think the reason that you and I get along so well is because we both did that with our music. You know what I mean? As often as there was something going on in high school, I was saying, nah, I got this thing. I got this music thing. I'm for that. You know what I mean? And
I missed out on a lot of good parties and dates. Well, I wouldn't. wasn't into girls weren't into me anyway,
right.
so I was a wallflower.
Yeah.
A lot of times like, nah, I need to go practice.
Right. I'd much rather make noise. You know what I mean? And I think there's honestly a point where I think it's actually kind of worked against me, especially when I was kind of coming out of my teens and into my 20s. You know, the social acumen you kind of lack because you've been locked in your room for 8 years or whatever. And even to this day, you know, you have a preference for what it is that you want to fill your head with because you've been filling it yourself for so long. And so when you sit amongst a group of whomever, wherever, and it's not what you want in your head, you're like, Space Cadet.
Yeah.
And usually it's somewhere in the Steve Ray Vaughan's or Albert King or something. You know, I'm just jamming in my own little head. I do that shit so often.
I know, it's crazy.
And I feel rude for doing it sometimes, but at the same time, I'm like, they don't know.
I know.
I'm just off in my own little world.
Yeah, it's that's the way it was for years. I even still to this day, I think every one of my friends are musicians.
Right.
You know, and it's been like that for years. I am almost stuck in that world, rather. I have a hard time relating to people outside of the music world, you know, that aren't musicians or songwriters or whatever. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Like, I don't want to. I can fake my way through some convos, but I've just always that's just been my world from such a young age that it is what it is. Everyone has their path, and that's just always been mine. Right. I'm not ashamed of it. Like I said, sometimes it does get old.
Sure.
You know, and like some gigs, like, what am I doing here? You know, but then I'm like, I'd be better than clocking in at some of the jobs I've had in my life. So yeah,
I've done way worse for less money.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And paid taxes to do it. You know?
Yeah.
A whole other level of
micromanaged by some guy who's got an IQ about 1/3 of anybody that's doing the job out on the floor.
Yeah.
No offense to you managers, but
it happens. I mean, it's it happens. It is what it is.
We'll just move on from that.
So at this point, I mean, like I said, you've kind of been around the what was your first project that you were full time into as a group?
I was about 12. I was a drummer then, and I had a drum set, and I met a guy, he's still my friend 40 years later, and I had some Kiss albums, and I'm like, hey, do you want to borrow some of these? I was like, do you want to borrow some of my Kiss? He's like, yeah, that's really cool, man. So and he's like, we have a band. I heard you play drums. I'm like, yeah, I got a drum set. He played bass, and a friend of ours who's a phenomenal guitar player. He's retired now. He finally had to get a real job. Right. In fact, played around Dallas, Addison's, and all for years. And anyway, so yeah, we were a little 3-piece. First, we were mostly instrumental. Mm-hmm. I was young then. And then when I started playing the guitar, the same guy played bass, and we had a guy that played drums. But I had my first paying house gig when I was 19, if that answers your question. Right. In a bar where we played every weekend. Right. And just kind of kept going from there. I have had day jobs through the years, but I've always played music. Yeah. There were times when I would semi-retire and I'm going to write a book or something. Right. I'm going to become a novelist. Yeah. It didn't take,
Indulge my delusions of grandeur for
There's been a few times where I got sick of the guitar. I was not impressed with myself, so I would become a bass player. Mm. And of course I got really good on bass too, but so I was 12. First I was a working musician by the time I was 19.
No kidding. So, that's crazy.
It is crazy.
It's crazy.
And always played with a lot of time, and always sought out older guys who could teach me things. Not always in a nice way, but I learned. And they could see, this kid's talented, but he's green. We're gonna straighten him out.
Shape him up a little bit.
Yeah. So
Right on. And that's not a bad place to be in. I mean, hell, I think there's a video out there floating around of B.B. King straightening out John Mayer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not in a negative way, but, you know,
Right.
at a show, it's like, hey, son, it's like, right on.
Play a little less.
You know?
That's usually what was, can you play 1/3 of what you're playing?
You know?
Guitar player shit, you know. You want to show all your licks. Hey, calm that down.
I played this 1,000 times over the last 6 months. Check this out, man.
One of the worst things that ever happened to me was, this was like in the mid-'90s. I was playing in a band, and we played with a saxophone player in Louisiana, and we were going to do Soul Man. And I didn't know that intro. And so the song starts, and the drummer's just doing the ride cymbal.
Right.
And I'll never forget the look on the guy's face when he turned and looked at me with like, who the hell is this guy that doesn't know this intro to this song?
Yeah.
You know, it was like one of those moments where I'm just like, I gotta learn that.
The one song you decided you didn't know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny. That's it, you know, and that I think that's part of why I'm not as good a guitarist as I want to be, because I've never had to be a guitarist, right?
Yeah.
I've had to play my own backup.
Sure.
You know, most of my career. And then like I said, we were talking about earlier, I picked up these electric guitars about a year ago and just went face first into a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And as a result, I've gotten, you know, my rhythm playing has gotten exponentially better.
Absolutely,
you know,
yeah.
But at the same time, I can play lead riffs, and I can do some of that whittly diddly stuff, you know.
Yeah.
But for some reason, when it comes to actually doing it in front of a group of people, at 43 years old, I've been a musician literally my entire life.
Yeah,
and the one thing I can't do in front of a group of people, like on command, is play guitar solo. You know what I mean?
It's
terrifying.
Because it's like you're thrown into an immediate game of chess, you know, and it's not the beginning of the game. You're in the middle of it, and you're like, you got. It's a strange, weird world. But I'll say this: I much more respect. There's a lot of mediocre lead players out there. I'd much rather hear a strong rhythm player, because that's 95% of your song anyway. The Wheedly Deedly goes on about a few bars and you're done. You know, learn to the level that you're comfortable at. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, nice and tasteful, like some of the stuff Chris Stapleton plays.
Right.
Then he goes back. But he's a strong rhythm player. Yeah. Rhythm is where it's at, you know. I mean, and guys that can sing and play. We know so many singer-songwriters that they're not lead players. And that's what my dad did. He could back himself up really good and play a little basic, like a Buddy Holly lead, you know.
Right, yeah.
That's all it needs, you know. The Wheedly Deedly stuff, I mean, I came up in that time of all the heavy metal guys and all the jazz fusion guys. So that's what I'm saying. Back then, you wanted to be the best guitar player you could be. It took me a few years to realize, okay, I need to up my rhythm skills. I always practice on acoustic.
Right.
So, you know, a lot of times I was like being a drummer and a guitar player, and didn't realize it. Now, in doing the duo acoustic stuff, that really pays off, you know, because it sounds like there's a lot more going on than there is. But it's still all about rhythm, though. Yeah. I'm all about the groove and the feel. I don't care nothing. I mean, I can play a whole show without playing a lead. Right. You know? It's like, who cares, you know?
And if you're a good rhythm player, nobody knows the difference anyway.
Yeah, you know, it's strong rhythm and there's a lot of guys out there I see some guys like at the campfire over the years, you see them get stronger and stronger, you know? It's all about that feel, you know?
Yeah.
So.
And based on, so you guys, if you've been tuning in, you know that James came on the program last week and sat down. That's the campfire we're talking about. Randal and I actually met at that campfire jam.
Absolutely.
It's 7 years ago, whatever the hell it was. You know what I mean?
The original.
and I feel confident in saying that I'm, you know, that it is as impactful for you as it has been for me.
There's
you know what I mean?
Magic moments.
Absolutely.
I mean, some nights it's just a campfire. Other nights it's like church or something where everybody's just in a realm of
fellowship, right?
Yeah, it's
community convergence, you know.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's such a magic little spot that he kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you guys brought up Rodney. I watched that. It's just, and he's still there. It's crazy how. Yeah, just everyone's welcome. Everybody can. No one has to.
Right.
You know.
Right.
and there's no pressure. I just want to say I've seen some guys get really good who were not very good when they started, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
There's just no judgment. Well, you know, work it out, you know.
Yeah. And it's, again, having access to guys like you and guys like James who, you know, if those guys who aren't real comfortable, they can show up and be guided rather than criticized.
Encouraged.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, and that, you know, and that's why I do that. I still do that with the band. I sent the band. We played yesterday, full band. I was like, hey, great show. It's nice, and everybody knows their parts, and it flows. I mean, compliments are a good thing. Yeah. You know, like, hey, you're getting better. You know, keep doing it. You know?
Yeah, it's got to be part of the building blocks for getting better at some point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So it's like, well, you still need to work on. I had to deal with a lot of that stuff growing up with guys that were older, and they didn't want to encourage me because then they thought I might get a big head.
Right.
I'm like, well, it's nice to hear. Am I doing okay? Yeah, you're doing okay.
You're all right.
But you need to work on, all right, whatever,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
They were old and grumpy already by that age.
Of course, right.
You know, younger than I am now, and they're already burned out. Excuse me.
I'm amazed nowadays, especially, you know, kind of on that tip, how fast people can improve with the tools they have.
Oh, YouTube and
you know
all.
What I mean?
Yeah.
And I'll admit it 100% as somebody who was classically trained, blah blah blah, for years and years and years by some of the most, you know, widely respected and decorated names in music,
absolutely.
blah blah blah. Thank you, Jetta. Thank you, Sherry. I appreciate it. The education I got in guitar, just from a handful of guys, you know what I mean? And it's kind of, you have to kind of sift through the BS to find the good ones, you know. But I found a handful of guys who teach in a way that makes sense to me.
Sure.
And I went to within the course of like a year, you know what I mean? Now, granted, I have a music background, so it's easier for me to kind of pick up on this stuff and move with it quickly. But being that you have access to resources that can make you better like that,
absolutely.
And I say this to everybody: distribution is
free. Yeah.
We pay nothing to get in front of people anymore. We just gotta go look at it. You know what I mean?
That's right.
And part of my kind of new, and again, part of like this, why I'm doing this is so people have a definitive point. You know what I mean? You want to see what we're about. You want to see what we're talking about, what we're doing. Boom, go here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not for credit for myself, but so you guys can, you know, spread the word.
Absolutely.
So and that's and being on this side of it nowadays, especially, it makes a whole. Your approach is different.
Sure.
You know what I mean? You're not grinding because you're hoping for a chance. You're grinding because you want your noise to get better.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah, you can. Everything you're saying is so true. I tell people that there is no excuse to not be a brilliant musician these days.
Yeah.
You know, and and the guitar. Going back to what you're talking about with lead playing and being classically. All of that. Andrea Segovia said the guitar is one of the easiest instruments to learn and one of the most difficult to play well.
Right.
So it's almost like the classical. Well, my dad didn't know it, but we kind of did, and that he was always making sure that I knew what key I was in because that's what classical. If you say it's like whatever, it's fugue in F sharp minor, you know, suite or concerto in A. Yeah. Those guys know their tonal center. It's all based off the major scale. Those are things my dad always know what key you're in. Yeah. You know, so that's a very classical way of thinking. So but with the guitar, with the classical bit that I learned was actually a Berkeley classical pick style method, which doesn't. It doesn't really focus on technique so much as everyone's going to play a little differently. Right. The guitar is a hard instrument to say this is the method to use. Yeah. Because everyone's fingers are different, everyone's wrists are different, everyone's reach is different. See, I can do it. So it's not really like there's a right or a wrong way to play. Yeah. You know, it's a tricky instrument. Really, it's not for everybody.
For sure. For sure.
And it's inherently out of tune.
Right.
Even when you tune it up, it's still out of tune. I tell people, like, look at it as like a little piano. Yeah. You're always, because you have to tune a piano to chords. You can't just tune a piano. Right. You've got to play to thirds. And Yeah, the guitar is, it's a bitch. I mean, I feel your pain, dude. There's been times where I gave up. I'm like, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
Hate this instrument, you know? And sometimes taking a step back, you'll come back with a fresh
it helps
outlook.
for sure.
Yeah, you know, like take a couple of weeks away from it. Forget about it.
Yeah.
Get outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Listen to some jazz. Listen to some Bach or some Bartok, you know.
Right, something
not
totally not even related
you may
to
not
what
even
you're
like
doing.
it, you know, and you'll come back with fresh ideas.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure. And that's, you know, and I didn't really, and I'm glad you kind of brought that up, that everybody plays kind of different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I didn't, you know, you see, so my guitar idol guys are like John Mayer and Stevie Ray Vaughan, and they were thumb over players.
Right.
And anybody who doesn't know what thumb over players are means guys are using
that
their
have big thumbs.
Yeah, they have these big meat hooks, you know, burger patties with bananas on them. Then they could actually reach around the entire neck and chord from both sides of it. Yeah. Versus us regular folks who have to play everything from underside.
Yeah.
But in learning their style, I have to adapt the way I play their stuff because I don't have that giant, 8-inch long thumb that they have.
Exactly.
And it wasn't until I realized, which was honestly way later in life than it should have been, because I started playing when I was probably 17.
Right.
I mean, bought my first guitar at like 17 or 18 years old, and really didn't focus in on learning it until I was probably in my 30s. You know what I mean? So I was kind of a late bloomer when it comes to this kind of stuff. But once I heard, late 30s, mid to late 30s, I think it was, somebody said, "Well, you're not gonna. That's not how you're gonna." That's not you. Your hands don't do that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That's not how it is.
Like that. Yeah.
Your ligaments in your elbow don't move the way this guy's elbows do.
Exactly.
And once I kind of got that, and again, finding the guys on YouTube that I like, you know what I mean, were guys that played like I do. Their hands work like mine. You know? And it was blown away.
Yeah.
Blown away.
Everyone's different. Everyone's built different. I used to have those same. I took instruction from. Well, the guy was teaching me the classical pick style. He was a Berkeley graduate, jazz bow, brilliant player in Louisiana. And he would get on. I mean, no, it's got to be this. I'm like, why does it matter what voicing I'm doing in A minor 7? If it's an A minor 7, who cares if it's in... Like, the audience isn't out there,
Right. Really? A fourth inversion?
Yeah,
Jesus.
Like people that get on me using a capo, I'm like, you have no idea why I'm using a capo. There's a musical reason. It's not late. It is some laziness. I'm not gonna play bar chords out of A flat all day. I'm not. I'll play it out of G or because the guitar is made for open string. Even the classical guys, if they do a Bach piece in E flat, they're going to put it in D or E. Right. They're going to move it down or up. So the guitar needs the open strings. Now, this is my opinion. Fair. It rings out better. Yeah. I'm not a fan of jazz guitar. I don't like the voicing. It sounds out of tune to me. I don't like that muddy, weird thing that the fusion guys do. There's a few fusion. Why am I getting off on this? So we're talking guitar geek stuff, Now we're way off into geek dumb. But I mean, a lot of the jazz guys can be very snobby. Yeah. You can get into those worlds like bluegrass. Right. Like, oh, what is that? Okay, he's not playing a Martin. Right. And so you're out of the circle. Yeah. But I think everybody, you can, like I said, the only two, I'm not a big fan of hip hop. I'm not against it. It's just there's nothing that I can grab from there. Sure. I do like some of the rhythms, the old school rhythms. Of course, they were all borrowing from James Brown anyway.
I was going to say, they're taking funk and soul all day. Yeah.
But, as a friend of mine a few years ago, he's like, well, my songwriting's not going anywhere. Like, because you listen to the same crap you listen to, not crap. You listen to the same stuff that 10 years ago. Get outside of your box. Yeah. That's what I try to tell people. And if you can, try to listen to the Beatles at some point in if you're going to be a songwriter, even if you don't kill, some people don't like their music. I get it. It's a little, but I'm like, there's some chords there. Their stuff is more complicated than you think.
They were compositionally one of the more advanced groups, for sure.
And then you get in like Brian Wilson, people talk about the Beach Boys. I mean, you got like Surfing Safari, that's 3 chords. Right. And not long after that, he was getting into some very dense. Right. Of course, then you start, all of those bands sang harmony.
Yep.
And that's something that Susie and I talk about a lot. We're like, we go see some really fantastic bands, brilliant, but there's no harmony.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, it's I don't want to say it's dying out, but it's just not as prevalent.
Yeah.
I mean, we just always sang harmony when I was growing up. You know, me and the bass player would sing 2-part harmony.
Yeah. Well, and again, like we have the distinct kind of perspective of being in a genre of music, so to speak, that is built on a type of music that was 100% built on harmony.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, old country and old gospel.
Yeah.
That was all. I mean, if you weren't singing harmonies, you weren't singing.
You know what? People don't go to church very often anymore,
Yeah.
and that's where I learned to sing. And that's so all of Susie and I's harmonies are based on that Southern Baptist, whatever you want to call
Revival
it.
tent.
Yeah, you know,
Revival tent.
I guess what I'm trying to say, it seems like people were more inclined to naturally. Harmony was just a more natural. Now you think people that I can't sing harmony.
Right.
Like, well, you're not doing it enough. You're not soaking yourself up with it, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you got to go to church, you know, but it listen to stuff. It's all about what you listen to, and what do they say in High Fidelity? It's all about, you know, the books you read, the music we listen to. It defines us. Yeah. But yeah, if you're just listening to the same, you know, stuff you always listen to, you're not going to grow. I don't think. So.
Yeah, I think kids who don't have access to Spotify, especially nowadays, right?
Are doing themselves
a serious disservice.
So beautiful,
you know. And look, as an artist who has music on Spotify, I understand they don't pay you much.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I've probably got 4,000 spins on music, and I've gotten $26 out of all of it. But at the end of the day, it's again, distribution is free and exposure is always a good thing. You know?
Yeah.
And with that, with all of that space that Spotify occupies, you can literally find fucking anything.
Yeah,
dude. I'm
just let your mind. Sometimes I'll wake up with some song from. I don't even, you know, I can't think of it right now, and it's on there.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, I ain't heard that in 30 years.
You know,
still sounds good.
You talk about harmonies, right? So one of my favorite groups when I was in junior high and high school was a group called Lady Smith Black Mambaza.
Absolutely.
You know who they are?
Absolutely.
Yeah. They did work with Paul Simon for in the 80s and 90s.
Doggone right, Graceland.
And I found a CD of one of their albums, you know what I mean? And I just played it, and I understood. Look, I don't speak any of those languages. I have no idea what any of that stuff means, aside from the fact that they had like a little translation in it. Outside of that, no idea what it means. Right. But it was the most magical noise I had heard in so long, and it's on. I had a hankering. I was driving the car going to work or whatever, and I had that little. Is it? Is it?
I need to hear that right now.
Spotify, I play this, sure enough.
I know it's magical.
It is.
I get off and it'll put you down some rabbit holes that I love it.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that's kids today. Okay, now on this, not being on the other side of it, I know that when we were growing up, when you discovered something new, very often you had to find it.
Yeah,
you had to seek it out. As things were out of print, you know, like late 80s, early 90s, whatever. Now, so it's both sides. It's readily available, but you can also take that for granted.
Yeah.
The good thing, I think, is that to a lot of kids today, it's just all music.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all kind of this giant pot of
it's just all, you know, I mean, like In My Room by the Beach Boys is the same as Something by the Jonas. It's just if they like it, they like it. Now that's good, but I do like to also point out, okay, do you know why this was groundbreaking? Because you know,
why do you like it?
A little, whatever.
Yeah.
A little side note there. I was like, okay, now do you realize so a lot of times I go back and listen to older music, which I love, and then you realize, well, this was groundbreaking at the time because this hadn't been done. So you take it for granted, you know, a lot, you know, certain songs the way it was done. And again, I'm getting geeky with all this shit, but now do I think kids need to know that? Not necessarily, but I think sometimes it's nice to know. Yeah. But no, Spotify's a beautiful thing. I love it.
You know, and it's allowed me to kind of build a foundational a foundational kind of organization for the noise that I like, right?
Sure.
So I put together a playlist that's
Playlists
called
are great.
My Favorite Ears.
Yeah.
And it's literally just all the random stuff that popped from like what's his name? Bruce Hornsby
Oh, I love him. Yeah.
to like Busta Rhymes. Literally everything in between.
Yeah, I know.
Everything
Speaking of Bruce, he did a great bluegrass album with Ricky Skaggs.
Did he really?
Yeah, he's still playing piano.
Okay.
Yeah, that song we do, Darling Corey, they did it, and anyway, check it out.
Okay, right on.
I think Skaggs is mostly playing mandolin, and it's really great.
Okay, yeah. I'll definitely.
It's almost like bluegrass jazz.
Right,
it's
right.
Really, yeah.
Pop, jazz, bluegrass. Kind of
And he's a guy that, oh man, I remember the first time I heard "The End of the Innocence" by Don Henley.
Mm-hmm.
I know exactly where I was when I heard it, and I was like, "That's Bruce Hornsby on piano."
Right.
I didn't even know, but I was like, and I was right. I was like, "That's Bruce Hornsby playing piano."
Right.
Yeah.
And I love those little nuggets, right?
And I like see how we get excited talking about geeky. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
You know, it ain't about, oh, I want to be a millionaire. I want to be on the cover of the Rolling Stone. That's all great. It's all about the like getting excited about the things that we love.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Which can be old or new.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure. And and in that same kind of vein, there was so Stevie Ray Vaughan did a lead track for Huey Lewis and the News on "The Power of Love." Right, their biggest hit from Back to the Future. That's the power of love.
Okay. Oh, I know the song well.
That whole lead solo.
That's Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Stevie Ray Emerson, right?
I know he's on "Let's Dance" by Bowie.
Yeah.
But I did not know. Now I hear it in my head.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, and one of those things where it's like, and I didn't even think about it until I my favorite ears add this to the soundtrack or whatever, and it was playing through in the car, and I heard it was like,
and I hear it in my head now. I'm like,
Is
wait a second, yeah.
Stevie effing, and sure enough,
yeah.
you know.
I know. Now I hear it in my head. I had no idea.
You know, and but that's what makes music so tangible for people. You know what I mean? They can connect it definitively from one point, and it is such a naturally collaborative thing.
It is.
In order to make the best music, you can't just be by yourself.
You can't.
You know what I mean?
You can learn stuff, but yeah, when two or more are gathered, you know, like it's biblical. You know, it becomes like a moment.
Yeah.
And it's when everybody's on the same page. And some of our best moments are like when me and Susie are just around the house practicing or learning a new song. And of course, then we get on stage and like, well, it don't sound like it did at home, you know, because we've got the wood and everything's just, it's all about moments. Yeah. That's what it's all about, and that's going back to the campfire and all that. It's all about the moments, you know.
And that's honestly, I think my motivation to play live in general is built around chasing that magic. You know what I mean? Because and the nice thing about the campfire, it is so consistent there. You know what I mean? If you show up on a Wednesday, even if it's just a one or two,
sometimes those are the best.
Yeah.
You know,
stop hitting the mic, friend.
Several months ago,
that's all me. Sorry.
Susie was out of town, and I went. I don't know if I was co-hosting or not, but it was about 7 or 8 of us.
Right.
Just the core, and it was magical.
Yeah.
It was quiet. You know, everyone could hear what they were doing.
Right.
People were pulling shit out. They hadn't, you know, like, well, I'm going to do this. Because a lot of times if there's a lot of people, you end up performing.
Right.
You know.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
You know.
For sure.
Or like you want to pull your best shit out, you know. But then it's like, well, I haven't done this song in a while. Or somebody, and there's no pressure. Yeah. Check that campfire out, guys.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one.
There's something there. And then some nights it's just like, I'm gonna leave early. It's not bad. It's just it's just not there.
Right.
You know.
Right. Which is true of I think anything.
Life is. Yeah. Sometimes it's just like just going through not going through the motions. It's still great, but it's just not. It's just another night.
Right.
Know? And that's fine too.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
It's a group mind think, and sometimes everybody's on a wave.
If the hive's not buzzing together,
sometimes it's just not, you know.
Yeah,
and that's okay too.
And that, but it's a good hive to be in. You know what I mean? It's a great. the level of human that I have come across as a result of just stumbling upon that jam has been absolutely fun. I mean, life changing, literally life changing.
Well, I can't. I don't think I've met anyone there that I don't care for. Well, there's been a couple, but they don't come anymore.
Right.
know?
They're usually in and out pretty quick. Right.
So, and I was, there's a group that goes now that have no idea that it used to be right down the road.
Right.
Right. And I'm like, yeah, and like some people that never even met Rodney.
Right.
Don't even know him, and that's fine too. Yeah. And that's good that you have different waves of people coming in.
Right.
That's very real. That means you're doing something right.
Yeah. You're spreading the word, and it's being effective.
And it's the welcoming thing, I think, where everybody feels welcomed.
Yeah.
It's
naturally organic. And here comes the Snuggles. This is the skinny one. She's my neurotic one.
That's not the same one?
No.
Okay.
I swear to God, you bite one cord in here, I'm going to cook you. Get out.
We will be having Kitty for dinner.
She's actually my cat for sure. Katie bought her. I shouldn't say adopted her from a family that was giving away some cats.
I understand.
She snuggles his little kitty, so she put her face right there. I just want to bite you.
I like when they get excited and they start digging into your chest.
Kneading on you.
Like, all right, I'm glad I have a shirt on.
They're great little creatures.
It's really painful.
Yeah, right? Yeah. James and I were actually talking about this last Wednesday. How it's that Campfire's grown, it's kind of morphed and been very organic in its expansion and contraction, over time, and what makes it, and I think what makes some of that magic is that vulnerability, of musicians. And we were talking about how you're vulnerable. Yeah, you're vulnerable because it's your piece of music, or you haven't really been playing all that much or whatever. So it's kind of a new experience to you. But even beyond that, once you kind of get into doing it, regularly, and you become, I don't want to say part of the crowd, but kind of part of the crowd.
Of course.
Your vulnerability is in those relationships and where they go. You know what I mean? And of course, this was kind of specifically brought up because Rodney passing.
Of course.
But you run the risk of developing deep, meaningful relationships with people. And having those relationships, whether it's a situation like Rodney, or with people moving away or having kids or doing whatever, there's a lot of deep connections that happen in those, which is where I really think that's where that magic comes from.
I agree.
Everybody kind of putting that little part of themselves in one little spot at the same time. I think it was Napoleon Hill. He said the secret to achieving things is having people around you who are focused on the same thing and moving in the same direction. Yeah. And James that crew, the entire crew for the jam has been that 7 years later, after a 2-year shutdown from COVID, they can just pop right back up.
It's crazy, and talk about. I just immediately thought of there was a guy named Chad who passed not long ago. He was relatively new to the. Then you have the old stalwarts like Mike Calloway, who didn't come very often, but was a big part of the. We played a couple of gigs with him. Right. And then like Michael James, who it's sometimes it's hard to get like Rodney. That hit hard, I think, for everybody, just out of nowhere. And I'll get emotional if I go into it too deeply, but because he just was. Rodney was just that guy that connected people together. Yeah. I was like the Godfather, I called him. He was that guy that, well, let me hook you. And that was his strength. Yeah. He was a great singer. He was not a prolific writer, nor am I. Right. But the ones he wrote were really, but that was his strength, was keeping everybody connected. And hooking people up and all of that. Yeah.
And, focusing the energy too. He was.
Yeah, he knew how to. He was the one guy when the crowd maybe got a little noisy, would quell them like, "Hey, we're trying to sing over here," and they would listen to him. Yeah. If I say it, they're probably going to try to kick my ass.
Hey, talking about.
Yeah, who the hell is he? Yeah. But. It's tough. And speaking of that, so many people that I've played with over the years are gone now, and it's hard. It's like, those are your comrades. Those are
right.
your brothers in arms. You go to war,
sharing significant experiences, and pieces of life with.
Gigs and recording and whatever, it's it's those moments again, and you bring, then you lose them. It's like, oh man, yeah. It's tough.
It's my drug.
Yeah.
It's my drug anymore.
So I don't mean to get deep and down, but
that's what we do here, man.
Fallen brothers, man. It's so many, and I carry so much stuff from them.
Right.
So yeah.
But even at the same time, that's part of their legacy. Still being here, because there's a lot of stuff that you learn from those guys that you carry on with you forever.
If you're thinking about them and talking about them, they're not really gone.
Yeah, they're always here.
And so
that's why it's so. That's why I think stuff like this is so important, or can be. I shouldn't say it is important because that's tooting my own, but it can be important for that kind of thing for posterity's sake.
Yeah, we got to keep doing all of this stuff, man. This is also a world of saturation.
Yeah.
But I'm going to send this out to the people I know will listen to it.
Yep.
It's there. That's what I tell people. Hey, we got to keep our line in the water.
Yep.
You're not going to catch the big fish.
Yep.
Whatever that big fish is to you or someone else,
yep.
And a lot of it's just get your art out there.
Yeah.
The great artists were not famous in their day. Van Gogh didn't sell shit.
Yeah.
He painted because he loved it. Now, whatever, Jackson Pollock, whatever, it looks like a bunch of scribbles. Yeah. Now it's selling for multi-millions of dollars. Some people's audience have not been born.
Sure.
Or whatever. They're just so saturated because you're a brilliant singer. There's a lot of brilliant singers, but you do have that thing. A lot of it's just right place, right time.
Right.
But everybody's time is different. Everyone has just the right amount of soul they're supposed to have. You've got it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
But you also have to make a living. We can't just, it's tough, man. This is a tough business.
It's a delicate balance.
It is a very delicate balance.
And I run right against the edge of it. I can't tell you how many times I've walked into work and be like, I am like this close to just saying, hell with it. I'm quitting. I'm going to go be an influencer. I don't care.
Kill everybody here.
I hate this. I hate everything about everything. I'm just stupid. Everything's broken. Don't make noise in my closet.
But you know what? Honestly, if you're not sweating your balls off and someone's not micromanaging the shit out of you, keep doing. You could do worse.
Yeah, for sure.
And you've been doing it a few years now, so you kind of. I'm sure it presents new things every day, but there's much worse jobs.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and I
just
don't
keep recording and writing.
That's what
you can do, man. Yeah.
And that's at the end of the day.
This is brilliant, man. I think this is wonderful.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. It's been my kind of, like I said, my kind of little pet project for a little while because I've been talking about doing a podcast for like a decade.
No, me too. I've got 5 or 6 things, all pages in a notebook. I want to do like the top 10 bands of blah blah blah. I've got my Anchor thing downloaded on my phone. I just haven't gotten around to it. Yeah. So. It's procrastinate tomorrow.
Right. Yeah, and it's taken me a lot of energy, like focusing on, okay, how do I motivate myself to start?
Yeah.
The amount of time I spent figuring out how to motivate myself.
Get in there and do it, you know. And a year from now, you'll look back at these and be like, oh, it'll be completely different. Yeah. But I mean, this is a podcast. This is all Joe Rogan does. They just sit and talk.
Yeah.
And there's a group out there that, they want to hit. You're on Spot. You put these on Spotify as well.
Not yet. Okay. Not yet. We will. We'll do single audio, but it's gonna happen.
It's all a journey.
Yeah. And I've enjoyed it so far. I can't. It's as much as I could bitch and piss and moan about whatever.
Oh, I know, and I'm bad about that too. Cynicism and pessimism is easy to. Yeah. And the world presents it. I'm trying to bring a more positive thought process to the new year.
Sure.
Not that time and space exists, but
right.
It can.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hey, Randal, what are you doing these days? No, what do you got? Any deep questions you want to ask me?
Actually, a couple more. Actually.
Yeah. What you got?
So there was there's a philosophy that I came across. I can't remember the guy who well, I shouldn't say it's a guy. It's kind of a generic philosophy that's been around a lot, but it's one guy marketed it really well.
Sure.
The why, the what, and how, right? Obviously, we've gone through the why. The what is this our music. So, and the philosophy behind it is nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care, right? Which is why starting with why is important as far as, at least for me. So now that we've kind of gotten through that in the what, how are you executing that next phase? What kind of what is the next phase, and how are you executing and moving into that next phase?
What we want to do, what we're looking at is we want to, we do a lot of the, Susie and I do a lot of cover to pay the bills.
Right.
And it's worked out real well. We stay busy. We've been very lucky with it. We've met some new people recently. We talked about, with the TCMA and all of that.
Yep.
We've been laxing a little bit the last couple of years. We want to focus more, and we've written several songs that are more Americana. I sometimes can be guilty of overproducing songs.
Sure.
Unproduce them, more acoustic driven, focus on the harmonies. And just get those mastered and get the, what's the IIRC code?
Right.
Just get stuff out there, because we've been lacking in that. Now, there's stuff out there, but there's some people that are still listening to the first album we did 8 years ago.
Right.
And I'm like, although we still do some of those songs. So, just refocus, a little more Americana based, get the originals out there more, because as I told you earlier, I've been watching the world.
Yeah.
But there's no time like the present. You never know when you're going to wake up dead.
It's never going to be the perfect time, right?
That's right. You never know when you're going to wake up dead in this world. And we're not getting any younger. So, that just to keep going and keep writing and focus on. I do want to say we're very, very fortunate we got chosen at full band to play a really big festival in May in Louisiana, the Mudbug Madness Festival.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where they contacted us, and I was like, well, how did they find out about it?
Right.
They saw some videos. That's why I tell people, keep your line in the water. Yeah. Now, that's going to be more, but that will give us a chance to also finally do some of our originals full band, which is really cool. We've never got to do that, and you know how that's a thrill. Yeah. I don't know. You've got to do that some, haven't you? Yeah.
Our project is pretty much all original at this point.
That's so we got to do a 2-hour show, but that's a huge fest. I'm not saying it's gonna. It's just we're very lucky.
Right.
We feel very fortunate, so we're looking forward to that. We're going to start rehearsals this month, doing full band arrangements of the originals.
Right on.
So that's cool.
That's exciting, dude. I'm excited to hear that for sure.
Bring a little Texas out because it's mostly newer Zydeco bands, Louisiana music, and they chose us, and they're treating us really good. Too,
right on,
giving us the 5-star room.
No kidding.
Yeah. So
we're
really excited about that.
Yeah.
So that's May 27th, I believe.
Right on.
Yeah, and it's one of those festivals 10,000 people over a 2 or 3 days.
Right.
So anyway, I wanted to shout that out.
Hell yeah.
Our band, and we've had the same guys. We've got a really good band. I just cannot. We have a drummer that is just road. He's a pro. Our bass player's been with us for 7-8 years. He's a pro.
Mike.
Yeah, Mike. And Paul is our drummer. He played for years with Cleghorn out of Dallas, Celtic rock band. Yeah. He's on the road with them. So we're very lucky and they stay busy with other bands because we do mostly duo stuff. But anyway, we're that. So
awesome. And
that's just keep moving on, man, and writing and.
Is your calendar on do you primarily keep your calendar of upcoming events on your website or
our
on Facebook?
.com is still Reverb Nation, but it's our domain. That's our .com for what it's worth, and it doesn't cost a whole lot. So and Susie's really good about posting stuff on. If we're still mainly Facebook, that too is we've got to address TikTok in the near future. Just doing little. I know, and I know why, because of the connections to the CCCP, And I don't know if we're Instagram. I don't know. We're still a little shy about those things. We're still old school we have stuff on YouTube and Facebook and that too. We have to up we need to up doing videos and things like that. It's so easy these days. Yeah. We've been laxing, I'll admit. And that's okay because we stay busy.
Right.
Like we played the last 2 nights and and sometimes in the summer we play 2 gigs in a day.
Right.
You're wiped, dude.
Wrecked out.
And we don't just stand there and play. We try to put a little energy into the show, but it's better than stocking shelves, I guess.
Right. and
did I answer?
Yes, you
did.
I think there's a perspective thing too. I think with especially with musicians, working musicians, can I have done some more? Can I do some more? Do I have more time? And a lot of times we're too hard on ourselves because I get it, 60 hours a week plus everything else going on. If I don't, because I like to do things on a schedule. If I miss my schedule by a day, I'm like, God, you're such an idiot. God, where's the matter with you? Everything's gonna fail. Everything's gonna fuck up. And that's just my own. Yeah. That's my own, perception of what's going on. When in actuality, look,
it's really not that bad.
And nobody really gives a shit if it's like Wednesday or Thursday. So just do your thing. So, and it's important. I think that's an important thing, especially being out here in this free distribution world.
Yes.
It's extremely important to remember. Look, regardless of what it is, what time frame or what thing you have you're perceived in your head as how it's supposed to go.
Right.
Doesn't matter. Just do it.
You can't do that at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not. I have made in the past 8 to 9 years that she and I have been doing this, the most money I've made off of licensing was a song. It's not even a song. It was a spoken word piece that I did back in 3 or 4 with a good friend of mine in Louisiana, where he's playing guitar and I'm doing a spoken word thing, and we made collectively about $1,000 off of that, off of YouTube licensing.
Right.
I'm still not quite sure. I think some rapper guy sampled it on some super underground mix CD.
Right.
I couldn't even hardly. I'm like, I don't even know. But we were splitting it right down the middle, and so he's like, hey, we got some money coming in. So we would every quarter, it started out like we both made a couple $100 a piece, and then it would go down like $180 a piece, but it went over about a year. That's the most money I made off of something so odd and weird.
Right. Oh, here goes camera 1. Oh, is this thing dead? Son of a biscuit.
That's okay.
All right. Well, I guess we'll call that a show.
I'm still here.
That's Randal still over there. Guys, thank you for checking out. Randal, thank you for sitting down with me, man.
It's great. Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Sorry if I talk too much.
No, you're good, man. I'm gonna shut this thing up so it doesn't fuck my audio up.
We got about an hour, didn't we?
Yeah, I'd say so. Probably pretty easy. It doesn't. It goes by pretty quick,
Yeah, I know. Dude, I enjoyed it. I like talking to you.
Right on.
It's just like we were just having a conversation anyway with headphones on.
That's essentially all. All this is designed to be. Dude. So, guys, thanks for coming out. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate y'all. Like, subscribe, and share. Go check out Shotgun Josephine, Randal, and Susie on Facebook and all the interwebs and stuff.
Put our music in a movie.
Indeed.
Netflix, we're here.
Willing to license.
We'll license for food.
Right, guys. Y'all have a great week. Hope everybody's New Year and Christmas went well. I'm glad we're into the new year. We can start fresh. If y'all have any questions, please feel free. Go check out the website. Leave comments, all that kind of stuff. And as always, if you can be here, get here.
God bless us, every.